distinguished speakers for this today conference of the VHS, Professor Chatterjee, Professor Vaidyanathan, and other speakers who are on their way, office bearers of the VHS, the state presidents on the dais, and delegates who have come in their own arrangements all the way here. First of all, I wish to welcome you and great pleasure in inaugurating this new venture. Why was VHS necessary? I have discussed this with Sangha leaders, I've discussed it with Vishwa Parishad, and I felt that while both the Sangha and Vishwa Parishad, they are doing a wonderful job in mobilizing the country against anti-national elements, and they are therefore working on the ground. We needed to tap a section of our society which was brought up in English education, has been associated with the intellectual activities as laid down, or the agenda laid down by the Western countries, and therefore were actually propagating views which the Westerners want us to propagate. This is a follow-up situation of what Machiavelli said, that my object of the educational system is to create a person who is Indian in color, Indian in looks, but in propagation, in his views, he is an Englishman. That is, the taste, the idiom, the outlook will be that of English, but his body and his location would be India. That is what we call as the brown Englishman. Now that has continued after 1947, thanks to Jawaharlal Nehru, and all our curriculum that was prescribed at that stage continues even today. So we needed a new set of warriors who will argue in English, who are comfortable anywhere in the world, and will put across our views according to what modern science has now made it possible for us to do. There was a time we could not challenge the Aryan-Dravidian theory because many scholars put their weight behind it. The modern science of DNA has demolished it. The same thing goes with so many other things connected with our past history and civilization. Recently there was a controversy about Om. But the recent or the last issue of Outlook carries neurological surgeons who say that those who repeat Om, their brain development is much faster than those who do not. Similarly, NASA says that their space vehicles and astronauts have noticed that as they get closer to the sun, they are able to hear a sound coming from the sun. This is NASA's publication which you can get from Google. A sound coming from sun, which they say is what the Hindu scholars and Hindu religious leaders used to know as Om. We can't hear it on this earth because its frequency is less than 20 megahertz. And human ear cannot hear any sound which is below 20 megahertz and about, I think, 20,000 megahertz. So we cannot hear it, but our rishis with their meditation were able to hear it and gave this sound. So both neurologically, scientifically established, as well as NASA's, that it is Surya Bhagwan's Vani or voice that we are hearing. So I am very happy that we have started this venture. No credit goes to me because it is spontaneous. There has been a lot of support, blessings, and we shall work for the broader ideological framework of the Sangha Parivar. We are not a parallel organization. I am very much part of the BJP. And I think BJP is the future for this country, and we'll do everything to strengthen it. There is one area which was not represented, and that was the English-speaking crowd who have been now increasingly we find in the new generation of IT engineers, management specialists, all patriotic, but they do not know how to argue with the establishment, which is also English speaking based. So to challenge that, replace them and beat them in their own logic, this is what the training is going to be. I would say that in terms of formal work, Rajiv Malhotra has done tremendous work in challenging them. He comes from their background. And I thought this Magi, in the name of the memory of Magi, the institution that has been set up, is ideal because this is world-class infrastructure. I mean, if you go to America, you can't get anything better than this. The infrastructure is superb. But more than that, I knew Magi personally. We were MPs together. The man was such a scholar. When I traveled in the train with him, he would not have time to talk to me, but he would be preparing questions to ask in Parliament. And he later on published it also. The vast amount of information he got out of the government showed his scholarly bent of mind. And therefore, something in his name has been set up, so I thought, therefore, we must hold this conference here. I do not look at the Panchang. I do not look at the Panchang for the date. It's just an accident. But long years ago, there was a great saint in Kanchi called Chandrasekhara Saraswati Kanchi Shankaracharya. Lived to 100 years. And somehow he took a liking for me and he started advising me on politics. He normally never spoke on politics to anybody. But for me, he used to give long lectures on politics, foreign policy, and make predictions which were unbelievable at that time. He said it turned out to be true. So one day I asked him, shall I look at the Panchang and do my work? He said, no. I said, I'm surprised you should say no to me. I thought all sadhus, sannyasis advocate looking at Panchang. He said, well, fundamental principle is this. To do good work, you don't need a Panchang. Any time is good time. And to do bad work, also you don't need a Panchang because any time is bad time. So don't look at the Panchang and automatically you will be driven to the correct date. And that's what has happened today. That I didn't know this date is so holy, but it happened that we are in a noble venture, and that's how it's here. Now, I would like to say that if we are going to create an intellectual Kshatriya, a fighter, a person who has a response for every situation, which is what I mean by Virat. I use the word Hindustan, not Hindu, because we want to bring in other religious groups also who share our views. Shivaji, as Commander-in-Chief, was a Muslim. And the Vijayanagara Empire was founded by two young boys who had been converted to Islam. So we have no hostility to any other religion. But we give primacy to the continuing civilization of India, and that is the Hindu civilization. 46 civilizations have been decided, tabulated by the UNESCO. 45 have disappeared. Only one has survived, and that is the Hindu civilization. I have many friends in Saudi Arabia because I taught for so many years at Harvard. There were students from Saudi Arabia, some of them from the royal family. And in fact, one student of mine did ask me one day that we in Saudi Arabia are puzzled by India. We have so many divisions, so many languages, so on and so forth. But yet you have remained through the history. And even today you are 80% Hindu. What is the secret? So this question has never been posed to me, I never even thought about it. He said, why are you asking me this question? He said, see, we are Islamic scholars, our Islamic scholars have studied the spread and rise of Islam. We found every country went and conquered. Within a short period, we converted them to 100% Muslim. For example, Iran was a Zoroastrian country, we converted them in 15 years. Babylon, Mesopotamia were certainly not Islamic. We conquered them, converted those two countries into Iraq. And in 17 years we made them 100% Muslim. Egypt we made them in 21 years. Even Christianity in 50 years converted Europe into 100% Christian. But in your country, 800 years rule of Muslims, 200 years rule of Christians, and you're still 80%. I want to know the secret. Then I thought about it. I found every part of India, whether by turn or otherwise, kept fighting. And our society valued the losers who fought bravely as much as the winners who courageously brought us victory. Shivaji is a great hero for all of us. But so is Rana Pratap, who spent his time eating chapatis made out of grass in the forest, having been defeated by Akbar. We value the Vijayanagara Empire of Karnataka, which spread all over India, lasted for 300 years. Of course, in the history books there is only one paragraph. There is the Vijayanagara Empire in South India. It lasted 300 years. From Akbar to Aurangzeb lasted 150 years, but our history books has one chapter for each of them. Akbar, Jahangir, Shah Jahan, Aurangzeb. So, despite that, it's a fact. There were fighters in Karnataka who lost, but were great heroes, like for instance Rani Chennamma. Or in Tamil Nadu, Kattabomman, Subhash Chandra Bose. I mean, even today, the people are so crazy to know what happened to him. And the British themselves, the present Prime Minister of Britain said that we left India not because of the Quit India movement. Of course, we admire and respect Mahatma Gandhi for his non-violence commitment, and we feel comfortable about it. But we had made one resolve long years before Queen Victoria took over, that the day the Indian army refuses to take our orders, that day we'll pack up our bags and leave India. Because there is no way we can go. And Clement Attlee, who was the Prime Minister who moved the resolution or the Act, Indian Independence Act, told an audience in Kerala, in Calcutta, that we left because Subhash Chandra Bose's INA people came back to India and there was an immediate revolt in the Navy and there was going to be an immediate revolt in the army, and we said, time to leave. And we left because of Subhash Chandra Bose. Even though he was defeated in the war, he had created a mental revolution. So I come back to this question of the mind. The most important thing for us now is to develop a new mindset. Mindset is very important. In every lecture around the country, I've been telling people, so what, we are 100 crore people. 1,000 goats at one place and one lion comes, all the goats will run, even though they have got the majority. They can surround the lion or the tiger and beat it to death, kick it to death. You can have in strength also, but when you don't have the mind, that strength is useless. In a circus, you will see 5 lions inside a cage, and one thin, wiry ringmaster will enter the cage and start ordering them. Climb on the table, they'll all climb on the table. Open your mouth, they'll all open their mouth. He'll put his head in each one of those lion's mouth. The lion will not say anything. When they have the strength to tear into pieces, but because the mind is like that. And I have compared our people who have got enormous power but don't know how to use it. Manmohan Singh is an example of being a prime minister and being afraid of one Italian woman. That is the reason. He was also like the circus Singh, he was brought up that way. So we want a new mindset. And that mindset must lead to leadership. Today we have got one of the most famous experts in this field, Professor Chatterjee, was director of IIM. He's written books, some of them become classics, where he's going to talk about how out of the Gita you can get the concepts of leadership. Leadership is something which can come only by mindset. So I think therefore, this VHS should now start imparting an education you can't get in the university. What is our correct history? What is the truth about Aryan tradition? Not only knowing it, but to be able to argue it. On television, very few people want to argue with me on these subjects. Sometimes they start telling lies like Arnab Goswami, but then I put him in their throat the right hand. But the fact is that whether it is Rajiv Malhotra or myself, they can ban our lectures, but they can't face us in an argument because there will be foolish comments. And so we must know the correct history. What is our history? Why Hindustan? Because either you are a Hindu, or according to DNA studies, which I have got recently, a very famous study which was published in the Hindu paper, which in my later lecture I circulated. It was actually published in 2009, and the headline of that story in Hindu is, all Indians share the same genetic lineage. We all have the same DNA. I told this even to Raj Thackeray, that your DNA is the same as the UP taxi driver's DNA. So, we are one people. Even Brahmins and scheduled castes, they are the same DNA. North Indian, South Indian, same DNA. Right from Arunachal, there has been some Thai influence, not Chinese. You got it all wrong. Our people think that, they can't make a distinction. But the Thai people came to India, settled down in India and adopted Hinduism and founded the Ahom dynasty, which is the only dynasty which never let the Mughals set foot in Assam. They fought it and that to have this kind of mindset, you need not just to be brilliant in your studies. You must be brilliant in your studies, you must be serious, you must focus your mind on doing your exams well. But you should also know how to argue, how to win over the other side, how to make friends. If somebody is bent on being your enemy, no harm. Then your Virat group will come and fix him at the right time. But people who are ignorant, to win them, that is today being called in the West as emotional intelligence. Then you must also have moral intelligence, that you should not do something where knowingly you are going to harm somebody unfairly. Yes, competition, one is going to win, another is going to lose. But you can cheat, you can betray, you can spread false rumors, you can defend the person, as is happening very often nowadays in our media, financed by people. But we mustn't do that. We should, if we like, if we want, we should do whatever we want for our own interests. But it should not be by doing an immorality with somebody else. That is called moral intelligence, how to develop that. Social intelligence. Do nothing for your private gain, which is at the which is the cost of the nation, cost of the society. You can't be say that my freedom I can sell, wield the gun, as they say, as they used to do. You cannot own property, because that's also power. You cannot own land. That was the concept of the Brahmin. The man, the person who sacrificed but pursued knowledge and told the people the correct path. In our country, we followed Mahatma Gandhi even though he only used to wear a lavoti. In the West, they couldn't understand. How can people follow somebody who is not properly dressed? You see the Western leaders, how well dressed they are. The Western spiritual leaders like the Pope, they are also so well dressed. But in our country, whom we place at the highest are people who have nothing to do with being dressed well. That is the quality of being a person who has given it. If you are in pursuit of knowledge and you sacrifice, you are held up with the highest esteem. And the others also were equally of the same esteem, but they had different responsibilities. The king, for example, in our ancient days, had the authority to protect the country. But when it came to making policy, whether to go to war or not to go to war, whether to give a capital punishment to somebody who has broken the law, he had to consult those with knowledge and act according to that. After showing due deference to them, visiting them, even washing their feet. These are some of the things that we've seen. In the Western world, the king was the ultimate authority of everything. He could give punishment, he could declare war when he felt that, but not with us. Even in Mahabharata, you remember just before the war, Krishna went to Duryodhana to say, give 5 villages. And Duryodhana refused that. That laid the moral foundation for going to war, which Krishna explains to Draupadi. Because Draupadi was very upset. She said, my humiliation is, you wanted to sell it away, throw it away for 5 villages. He said, no, I don't want this war where thousands of people are going to die, thousands of women are going to become widows for the sake of one Draupadi. You will get your revenge. You will get Dushasana's blood to shampoo your hair with. But it will not be known as Draupadi's war. It will be known as the war for Dharma. And then only people who lay their lives down will be well. So this is the way we build our society. That's why it is so stable, it's the continuing civilization. All these things we have to learn. Today the West has accepted Sanskrit as the most computer-friendly language. And therefore for artificial intelligence they made it compulsory. If we had said it, that Sanskrit is the best, For computers, people are laughed at us. Now NASA has said it, then it will then it will okay. But so many other things. The other day somebody was making fun of some scholar in a historical conference said, India invented the aeroplane. Because he gave the example of Pushpak Viman, which was with Ravana, which ultimately Rama used to come back to Ayodhya. And he said, what is this? All these wild stories are being spread. I ran into a text called Vimana Shastra. And I was surprised to see in that they prescribe mercury as the fuel for the plane. I showed it to a scientist, I said, is it possible? He said, my God, mercury, one drop has so much energy that even a bucket full of airline fuel doesn't have. But nobody has steamed mercury to provide that propulsion. So in other words, they knew that mercury could be a fuel. Maybe they hadn't invented it, we forgot it on the way. We invented calculus, we invented zero, decimal. What have we not invented? We were the world's most developed country 1,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago only. So all these facts must be now woven into the modern lingo. And we must become a proud Hindustani. Absolute pride in our past, but not a prisoner of the past. To modernize it, reform it, bring about a renaissance. This new Hindu, or a new Hindustani, this is the one term that we are trying to create, and that is through the mental revolution. And something then we can contribute. Somebody asked me, is this a new electoral machine coming? I said, well, it's not, but it's certainly, if I come from Harvard, I get a professorship immediately in India. The same way, if you come from VHS, the BJP should give them the ticket as first preference. So therefore, we are a tool for the BJP. Because it's all part of the same, what I call as cosmos. They are part of the same system. It is to strengthen the BJP, the RSS, Vishnu Parishad, the ideology that we are developing this organization. And therefore, you all voluntarily came, all of you highly educated, some have come from California. People who have, probably every minute in their consultancy, they must be charging $100,000 or something like that. Such people have given it all up now. This spirit will, over the year, build a new set of intellectual warriors so that you will be able to convert others, and slowly the whole of India would be mentally revolutionized and the renaissance for the country would be achieved. Thank you very much.